5-1. I'm just thinking about things that I had read and heard and talked. There's no excuses for the U.S. national team. Greg Berhalter well, look, I mean, the post-match press conference for the U.S. wasn't transmitted. There were some issues in terms of getting quotes. Well, there were technical difficulties there. They should have talked about the technical difficulties being on the pitch, because there was a technical difference in between both teams. At first, I was hearing, well, see, I'm having a difficulty seeing how I'm going to approach this video, because there's so much to delve into. Because coming into this match, you heard many in the U.S. soccer media talking about how this encounter was going to be so important for the way that the U.S. were coming in and marching in and being able to make a statement to say, hey, we're here and we're going to contend to win the Copa America. Well, that quickly got vanquished. In a span of 15 minutes, Colombia were winning 2-0. But there was only 2 mistakes. Come on, things were, 2 mistakes. It's unacceptable. But you know what? You still got 2 mistakes. A team that dropped back and at times gave here, take the ball, go. What are you gonna do with it? Colombia were defending. Colombia knew they could, and like I said in the live stream, Colombia are a team that know how to drop back and defend. Colombia are a team that can drop back and cut off spaces. Colombia are a team that can do a lot of things and still counter you, and still transition into play. They did everything. Not that I'm not an oracle. I didn't guess these things. It was evident because that's how predictable the U.S. is. See, the problem with the U.S. is this. When you beat Mexico, and you beat Mexico as soundly as you do and as often as you have, you start to get a vision of being greater than you are. And it's understandable, because in CONCACAF, you end up being kind of surrounded in a bubble of a lot of things that aren't real. Keep in mind, CONCACAF is the only region in the world where it's 2 teams and then everybody else. There's another 40 teams that kind of don't matter. They end up playing their own little leagues. They only end up, kind of, but it's U.S. and Mexico, and that's it. Maybe Canada will sneak in and kind of, tickle their feet a bit. Keep in mind, in the last 3 matches for CONCACAF teams, they've been outscored 13-1. 13-1. But again, staying with the U.S., the problem is that they have beaten Mexico so badly, and they have surpassed Mexico at the national team level so badly, that they believe that they're now Brazil and Argentina. No, they're not. They're not. No. And people can tell me that this is the best. Yeah, it is the best generation the U.S. have had. That doesn't mean that it's the best generation that we've ever seen in football. 2 different things. In Argentina, in Brazil, in Uruguay, maybe even in Colombia to a lesser extent, they wouldn't even be considered one of their greatest generations. It's another generation that's doing very well, and there's some players that are very good, and there's some players that have done very well, especially in Europe. I mean, people are talking, because it's the first time ever they had a starting 11 that had all European. That's great. That's the way it's supposed to be. But people think that they're the only ones that have young players coming out. No, young players come out everywhere. Maybe in Colombia they're having an issue with that as of in recent times. Although John Jader Duran, Yasser Asprilla, who are now on the national team and they're playing in Europe too, are becoming part of that, which is commendable when it comes to seeing how much the game has grown in the U.S. But there's still so much to grow. It's growing, but it's not there. And many in the media are lying to you, telling you that it is. Oh, we're there. We're going to win the World Cup in 2026. No, you're not. No, you're not. The way they're playing now, no. Now, could there be an incredible enlightenment and a different coach comes in and changes things and all of a sudden maximizes and taps into? Could be. I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say that's not going to happen. But they're a long damn way from doing that. And they're a long damn way from doing that 2 years from now. if we're talking about, well, in 7 years and 8 years, that's different. But you're going to be having this wonderful, beautiful, great generation of, they're going to be at their peak. And what are you going to do when they're at their peak? That's the question. Again, I don't talk a lot about U.S. soccer because, first of all, I get criticized a lot for my takes. Second of all, I don't follow them as much as I should, but I do follow the other national teams. Colombia, I can give you an assertion that the players that came out with a passing grade. This Colombia side that you saw today, that's not going to be the starting 11 come Copa America. Maybe some of these players will be. Maybe some of these players win their way in. But right now, they're not. And mind you, the Mateus Uribes, the Davinson Sanchez, those types of players, Borré, they aren't guaranteed a starting spot. They aren't entitled to a starting spot. And that's the difference between Colombia and the U.S. Now, I'm going to say it. And I love my guy Max Bredos, but man, he's way off on this. And I'll even tag him on this. He's way off. Now, you can't go from being a match that's going to set the tone for the Copa America to become a meaningless friendly because you lost 5-1. It's one or the other. You can't just go and, you can't just go and switch things around. Forget moving the goalposts. You remove the goalposts from the field and then the game's over. I take the ball home, I'm done. No, it's not that. It's not that, ladies and gentlemen. The U.S. have a lot of problems. Yeah, there's a lot of individuals on the team. There hasn't been a sense of cohesion. There hasn't been a tactic that unifies all the top qualities of these young players that can do a great deal. Now, like I said earlier, if there's a coach that comes in and taps into their potential and establishes a system that maximizes everything, it's not just pressure, run. No, you have to think sometimes. The top teams in the world think. The top teams in the world have thinkers. It's not just running. People have it confused when you have to have footballers. You have to have athletes. You have to have athletes that are footballers. You have to have footballers that are athletes nowadays. Not just athletes, not just footballers. Or you have a mix of the two. The U.S. have a lot of athletes. Now they have footballers. But athletes that are footballers, not footballers that are athletes. Can there be a great potential in the West? Yeah, man. I've talked about Weston McKinney. I've talked about all these guys. And I'm not going to become an authority on the U.S., but I'm just being real when it comes to seeing the team that collectively aren't collective. Individually, when you start playing against the Guatemalas and you start playing against the Haitis and you start playing against the Jamaicas, yeah, man, they're world beaters. But look, and of course, the main measuring stick in all of this is the Greg Berhalter era. I think something like 34 and 23 or something. I mean, it's a pretty good record that Greg Berhalter's had as U.S. national team coach. But he go in and start talking about non-CONCACAF teams, 8-7-7. 8-7-7. I'm starting to think, and I don't know if anyone, I mean, if you can recall of a big win under Greg Berhalter, please tell me in the comments, because I'm not sure. I don't remember. I don't recall. Mexico's not included. Mexico doesn't deserve to be called elite. Okay? Mexico's not elite. They think they're elite. They're not elite. They're not even the best in CONCACAF. Let's be real. Again, enough with my diatribe because I've already talked enough about the U.S. men's national team. I don't talk about it often, but when I do, it's frustrating because you say it and you say it and you say, these are the things, these are the same things I've been saying for the past 15 years. And you still hear the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over and over. And I mean, you can grab articles that I've written, tweets that I've done from 2010, 2009, or whenever I started doing social media. From that time to now, and it's basically the same. Nothing much has changed. Now, something has changed. There are players playing elite at the most elite level on a consistent basis, and most of them are. But when they come to them, because again, they thought it was Mexico. They thought they were playing against Mexico. And many in the media thought they were playing anything south of El Paso's Mexico. So, oh, they're south of Mexico, so it must be Mexico. Or, so they thought that. They thought, well, we're going to come in and we're going to, play our game. And we'll beat them. Because, well, anything south of that is, that's all Mexico down there. They got a huge rude awakening again. People forget the opening of the 2016 Copa America. They were thinking, well, full stadium, and all of a sudden it was 60, 70% Colombians. Today, same thing in D.C. They don't learn. The people that run U.S. soccer, the people that cover U.S. soccer in media, they don't learn. They continue making the same mistakes over and over and over and over and over and over again. They continue making them. They continue making the same stupid assumptions. They continue being the same arrogant assholes that they've always been, thinking that they're just going to come in and step in. Oh, we're the U.S. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. And that's the problem. And I hate doing it because there's some very good ones that do, and some very good ones that are fair, and some very good ones that are very assertive in their takes. But there's a lot that aren't. And a lot go and start forgiving and saying, oh, no pressure, man. It's okay. We'll get them next time. Or, no, they only had one or two bad moments. They lost 5-1, dude. At a certain point, you got to start making things more accountable. And the problem is, if you criticize, you end up being part of the problem, apparently. Still to this day, that attitude prevails. So enough of that. Colombia were solid, man. Colombia were super solid in all their lines. And at one point, I tweeted, I said, oh, but by the way, expect in the second half, Colombia to drop back and kind of hold off the fork to kind of regulate the game a little bit, kind of hold off and see what goes on. They did that. U.S. scores. George Weah scores. Or George Weah. Tim Weah scores. Yeah, George Weah scores. Yeah. Woo. Tim Weah ends up scoring the goal that ends up making it 2-1, makes the game interesting. But you never saw anything really of note after that. Okay, in the first half, Davinson Sanchez clears the ball off the line. There were instances where the U.S. showed flashes. That was about it. So Colombia were able to hold. And people, again, maybe this is another pet peeve, another thing that people in the U.S. think that holding the ball means you're dominating. No, Colombia gave them the ball for 25, 30 minutes in the first half. Here, take it. Do something. They didn't. There's a difference between not having possession and just dropping back and regulating. Because you at a certain point understand, hey, these guys aren't going to do anything to us. Let's see what they can do. It's when that boxer, when he always constantly has his guard and he realizes that the guy he's facing isn't really hitting him. Let's say the boxer gets a little cocky. What does he do? He brings his guard down. Okay, hit me. Go. Do this. Come on. Go. Come on. Puts his face out. Go. That's what Colombia was doing at one point. Now let's drop back and defend. Let's see how our defensive structure works in certain situations, because that is what Nestor Lorenzo was looking at. It was a friendly for Colombia from the beginning. Never was it a match in which Colombia said, we have to win this game in order to establish our superiority. No. It was a friendly from the start to the end. Their notion of a friendly is completely different than the notion of a friendly. For the U.S., it ends up being a match. And when they turn it off, it's a friendly. For South Americans, it's a friendly where you're representing your country. Match might not count, but you know that you have to perform in order to get a place or in order to make competition better within your group. If you end up playing well, you have a chance to get some minutes. If you have a chance to play and perform, you might end up having a chance to start. That's why players like Richard Rios, like Carrascal that came in, they came in with a fire in their belly. And the U.S. players didn't. They said, well, this game's over. Okay, fine, let's pack it in. That shows you another facet under adversity. Okay, you get 10 minutes. What can you do? Now, is it favorable? No. But it's 10 minutes. So they did the best they could do, and some ended up producing. I'm just being real, folks. I hate sounding like like I'm wanting to bring doom and gloom to many when you talk about things from a U.S. perspective. And I'm trying to make Colombia sound glorious. I'm not, because Colombia too have their problems. Colombia too have their inconsistencies, but they've been able to iron them out as this Lorenzo process has gone through. Mind you, they're 21. If they would have lost today, well, great. 21 in a row that they've not lost. They're bound to lose someday. Now it's 22. And then coming to Copa America, of course, that'll stack up. If Colombia get to the final, they could get to 30 matches unbeaten. Losing to the U.S. takes pressure off of them. Okay, we start anew. Because I'd rather lose now than lose in the tournament, lose in the final, lose in the semis, lose whatever. In one of those one-off matches. They'd much rather do that. But they didn't, because they know that each and every match means something to the players individually. Each of the matches means something to the players collectively. It grows them in confidence. It helps them understand the system. Never do you hear that from the U.S. players. Or do you hear it, but you should hear it more often and from more of those players. And at times now you understand why certain players that are playing in Europe, in the U.S., are on the bench in their team in Europe or don't get many minutes. Many of the Colombian players too. Mind you, people, but James hasn't played in 3 months, and he was torching the defense. Juanfer Quintero hasn't played in almost a month and a half. He's having to fly from Argentina to Colombia and back because his partner, the mother of his children, has been having some health issues. Yet he comes on, he starts torching the U.S. defense. They weren't running. I know that. They weren't, just burning tracks all over the pitch. No, they were thinking. They understood. They regulated themselves. Yeah, at times they look like they were heavy-footed, especially James. And like I said in the video, it hurt. I'm thrilled whenever James does something good. I'm extremely disappointed when he's about to leave a team. I'm super disappointed in him overall in his career, but you know that he can do things that not very many people can do. And that's what makes him such a player and such a disappointment as a player. Because man, in your heart of hearts that he has that talent that barely anybody in the world has. And if he just had, God damn it, man, just one bit of dedication, 1/100th of the dedication that Cristiano Ronaldo has, that Leo Messi had, those top players. God damn, man. As a Colombian, it pisses you off. Because you know that he had it. And you know that, those passes that he was doing, just moving the ball around there. And you've seen it. And it kills you to see how much he's pissed his career away. Yeah, he's still playing. He's 32. He still can do it. But God damn, man, he could be so much more. He could have been. Everybody talking about Messi and Ronaldo. He could have been the third one that wraps up that podium. Maybe, I don't know. But he had the talent to do it. He could give you the arguments to do it. He was very close to being able to do it. But he didn't. He let his demons get the best of him. He let his passions get the best of him. If you catch my drift. So, Daniel Munoz played very well. The center backs in general played well. John Arias, of course, scores the first one. Man from Fluminense is brilliant. Integral part of Fluminense winning the Copa Libertadores earlier this year. The U.S. was bragging about all the players they have in Europe. Well, Colombia had some of the best players in South America on their side too, on top of the players that are playing in Europe. Carrascal, which another player that seemed to be pissing his career away at a certain point. At River, he wasn't able to fulfill his expectations. Borré comes in and scores a goal that pretty much people could just turn off the lights, go home. Colombia played well. Colombia showed why they're working on. There's still signs of improvement that need to be made, but They showed why they're a contender, or why they should be looked at as contenders. Now, and I say this because the possibility is they can go all the way to the final. But at the same time, they can get knocked out in the second round because they could play Uruguay. And they'll try and battle to see which team, Brazil or Uruguay, or Brazil or Colombia, end up playing Uruguay. Now they're going, damn, I wish I could play the U.S. again. Which, as U.S. fans, that should get you pissed. Can the U.S. beat Colombia? Yeah, they could. But a lot of factors have to come into play. Especially, the odds improve slightly, keeping in mind that it's a one-off match. And in a one-off match, anything can happen. That's for sure. I can give you that. Well, could they win now? No. I don't see Greg Berhalter's tactics improving. Could I see the team playing better collectively? Maybe. Maybe. You can't blame it all on Greg Berhalter's tactics. I mean, with what you saw today, there was a lot of mistakes that were made that no tactic in the world could really establish. So let's stop blaming Greg Berhalter on everything. But could Colombia get beaten? Yes, they could. They could get knocked out. They could go to the final and win it, just as they can get knocked out in the second round by either Uruguay or the U.S. Most likely more Uruguay than the U.S. That's why that match against Brazil becomes so much more pivotal. And, of course, not dropping points against Paraguay and Costa Rica, which end up being two tough customers, whether you like it or not. So, does this tell you a great deal about Colombia? It tells you a little. And it tells you a lot of what you already knew. So does it add any more? Just a tiny smidge. Just a tiny smidge. Don't get too carried away. Younger Colombian fans are known for kind of letting things go, letting their imagination run wild. Older ones tend to be a bit more cautious, saying, oh, wait a second. We've seen this movie before. We saw it 30 years ago. So let's calm it down. Let's get grounded. Let's get ready for our next challenge. And then we'll see where we're at. And then we'll go to our next challenge and see how we are. That's how older Colombian fans tend to be. Now, when things go to shit, then yeah, they end up catastrophizing everything, for lack of a better term. And that's really what it's all about. So, folks, I hope you enjoyed this reaction. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you feel. Let me know what I should talk about. I might have a reaction for Brazil, Mexico later on tonight. Chock full of information, of course, as Copa America coming. Like I said in my live stream, looking to do a lot more Copa America stuff. Remember, Argentina and Ecuador play tomorrow. More importantly, I'm looking to do match commentary here on this channel, here on YouTube. I have to talk to people and kind of start working things out. I might do a couple of dress rehearsals, so if you join me, it'd be beautiful, so I can work out the kinks. Remember, this is just a one-man operation. This is just me doing the filming, doing the editing, doing the script writing, doing this, and it's all me. So I might as well not even put credits at the end because it's all me. But I would like to be able to do that to offer you guys a bit of different information, a bit of different commentary that you're going to be receiving, especially in English. Get ready for that one. Different commentary with more information. It'll be more information based. Obviously, I can't show any images, so I'll be giving a lot of information, maybe delving off on some tangents here and there, but doing mostly match commentary in a very different manner, which this platform does lends itself to. So guys, talk to you soon. Make sure you like, subscribe, do the usual.